This
Okay,
conference will now be recorded.
okay, I'll share the doc. Um, so, some of the stuff maybe we can look at really quickly and just say, yeah, it's okay, or Drew, you really screwed it up. And either's fine with me. But last week, um, Vilas had mentioned that we need to make the document um, relevant or kind of in context when this infrastructure is rolled out. So instead of saying we're currently struggling, we just said prior solutions. So I tried to reword the executive summary to sound like I was talking about we had problems with prior solutions and this new solution solves these problems. So I'll give you all a second. It's just that one paragraph really where I made a bunch of changes.
Looks good to me. Minor thing, could we just, I probably should just say silicon vendor, not silicon designer, but beyond that, looks great.
Sure. Let's see. I'm happy to make that change. I'm just looking for it. Got it.
Yeah, there. Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. I will, and the reason I brought this up is what I'd like to do if folks don't object is I'm just going to start accepting the changes that we reviewed here. So, but I have to scroll up to do it. Sorry. Okay. And I'll just, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to do that here, um, but I'm like dead set on getting rid of some of these comments to clean the document up so that we can focus on the requirements where we actually have issues we need to discuss. And I did put a few, I did mention cloud service providers in the glossary now, and I added fit rate, so that's why those are hyperlinks. Okay, so, and I should just update this for grins if we want to come back to it. Oh, that was bad. I'll do that later. Okay, and I'm sorry for the fast scrolling. There was a comment that I need to just put a glossary entry for EL3, so that's in the glossary. In fact, I'll just go there. So if someone knows ARM better than me, I can get an ARM person to review it. But here's what I said.
So Drew, on that, I don't know if I left a comment, but weren't we trying to avoid proprietary terms in general?
We are, I think we just use it as an example. It's just like SMM. SMM is an x86 term, but we talk about it. So I think it's okay to talk about, firmware stealing the CPU and mention that EL3 and SMM were the main examples.
Okay.
The other thing I added was failures in time. And if you all are okay with what I added, I'm just going to accept it to get, as I said, to clear this out. So I'm not hearing objections. And then fit is, failure in 1 billion hours of device hours. And this is almost the Wikipedia definition. So I'll just include that. And yeah, I think we talked about management firmware, I think last time. So I'm calling management firmware, it runs on management cores in the processor. So if that's not contentious with you, especially VLOS, I'll just accept this as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okay.
So how does that distinguish management from running in the BMC?
It could be. I mean, I consider them all management software.
But they're not cores in the processor. BMC is a separate entity, compute entity.
How about how about that?
Well, but Drew, right? They're two separate firmware entities. We should have two separate definitions, right? I don't actually think
Okay.
it matters what we call them. We just refer to them as different things, right?
So why don't we say management firmware runs on management cores, and then we'll have oh, we have BMC firmware.
There
So
you go.
okay,
See? Look at that. Yep. So
okay,
that
okay.
looks fine to me. I mean, John, you agree, right? They're distinct.
I don't hear a response. I'm gonna assume we're okay.
Well, I would call management core firmware.
I'm sorry.
If this is firmware restricted to a core, then you should just call management core firmware.
Okay.
And management firmware refers to both.
Processor management firmware.
Uh, processor. Uh, sure. Our management processor. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't.
processor management firmware, maybe. Processor on the front.
Well, but it's really management processor in the core. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. I don't think we're gonna find a one fits all definition.
I don't know. Just give someone take charge here and pick a name, and I will type it. So if you all like,
Management core firmware. Is that
okay,
not acceptable?
That's good.
that works for me. So okay,
Just make sure to go change wherever you refer to it to that. Right?
yeah, okay. I'll just take an action item, so you don't have to suffer through me doing that. Okay, sounds good. That'll help me remember to do it. Okay, so I apologize for the scrolling. Let's see. Um, okay, so wow, there's so many comments. I'm going to go to the first comment here. There's so many comments there. Okay. Oh, one thing that I did, I had the action item to add hypervisor as optional in the bare metal use case. And there's certainly no one preventing a customer on a bare metal machine from running their own hypervisor. So per our discussion last week, I added that. So anyway, hope that's not contentious. Let's see, Yogesh, you had something that you wanted to review the errors. I think we've done that. And reviewed the things in this table.
This may be old comment that we did not remove.
Yeah, it was on 127. That was a couple of meetings ago. So my point was, I think I can just say done, right?
Right.
I think we've done this. Okay. Then next up is okay. So Carlos, your point was interesting, but really, both of these, as we're showing, the framework are in the BMC. There's some interface, and that interface can either go out to a management core in the CPU, or it could just go do the logging itself from the CPU. Yeah, it's an abstraction layer, so the silicon vendor has some flexibility. But I think our goal is that this runs in the BMC and it ties into the cloud service provider's BMC code. So I could put a box around both and say they're BMC if you want.
Well, I think, and I have to admit, this was a while since I had this comment. Can you go back to
Okay.
the picture where you show the full framework? I just think the comment was around consistency with that picture. I think it was on page 15, right? This one right here.
Yeah, and so
Um,
that's right. I see the vendor code as an abstraction layer, but I think the vendors will have code here in the out-of-band hardware too. But we're just not talking about it because, as far as we're concerned, it's abstracted by the screen box.
Yeah, and so you have vendor code also on your CSP infrastructure.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I think what you had was the error logs being produced with a blue box. And so I think that you mean that one right there, right? Vendor application, the vendor
Yeah.
provided. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so now let's go back to where I had that comment. And sorry, I've been trying to open the document, but for some reason you just kicking me out.
Yeah. So the two green boxes are supposed to match the two green boxes below.
I see. Okay. CSP VNC code.
Then
And this,
you
Yeah.
should
So
use
I
the
think
same words, right? And
yeah,
yeah.
because this vendor fault management, I don't think is the wording we're using there. It just says vendor code. So if we can make them consistent, then our reader is not going to be lost because we assume those readers are not familiar with what we are familiar with, right?
yeah, that sounds good. I pasted the picture back into this from the other, and it didn't show. So I'll give myself an action item to make this drawing consistent with the one above. How about that?
Sounds good.
And because I derived the example from this drawing, I think when you're done, Drew, I'll take an AR to update the last diagram, which is basically a markup on this diagram,
Okay.
and some additional things like ASL and that example that I presented at Global Summit.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll do that. And so what I'm going to do with that comment above then is I'm just going to say we'll make the drawing below consistent with this one, and then I'll just resolve this. Is that okay?
Works for me.
Okay. There we go. Okay, so it says needs caption. I just called it high level concept. Or we could just say concept if you prefer. I don't really care. I just want to put something and be done with it.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, no one cares. I'm just going to accept this. Okay, so then Carlos, you said management firmware, and so there should be management core firmware. But I would say and in BMC firmware, because our goal is really like the BMC firmware is more important to me. It's the and you do whatever you want to in the management core, just make it talk to the BMC so that we can expose it on Redfish.
Could you scroll up to my original comment? It just went out of the screen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I said. Oh, I see. Okay, so the way you're approaching this is but it's you describe. I don't really care about what the management core firmware is doing, but
As long as it works.
is right. Is the overall vision that this framework that we're proposing here will require management core firmware, or is it optional?
So, like at least maybe I'm wrong, but as far as I'm concerned, let's go back to the drawing. I think that the beauty of what we're doing is we're saying there is an abstraction layer, in the BMC. We may, and I think there's room for us to architect standard ways to do this. And if we did that, then each vendor doesn't really need to put their secret stuff here in the OpenBMC. You can just upstream almost everything, and you can just go enumerate whatever interfaces you have from your out-of-band hardware and its firmware. And so, if you want to generate a CPER log, down here in the out-of-band hardware, then that just gets passed up and you don't have to expose much. But if you don't mind, having libraries we link in that handle proprietary things, or you don't mind exposing your register names to everybody in OpenBMC, you can put it here. I think there's flexibility, right? It's up to the silicon vendor to figure out how to abstract it.
Okay, so I think that that's not something that, at least in my recollection, was assumed when putting this diagram together, right? I think the original intent was the vendor code on the BMC knows how to talk to out-of-band hardware, and from the CSP perspective, all they care about is the analyzer. Where did it go?
Well, we care that
is it a chipset faulty for identifier now? The vendor provided analyzer.
Well, I think any of these are things we want to do. Chipset faulty fruit, memory vendor, trigger RAS features. But I think, Carlos, the way I look at it is that I would go up to AMD and say, okay, we're going to buy a bunch of AMD processors. We want a library in OpenBMC that abstracts your CPU. And if you use MCTP and you have a standard interface to the out-of-band hardware, that's awesome. But if you give us the vendor code and somehow all the error logs and all of the functionality we need gets exposed over Redfish, and I can pipe your data, everything I need to debug your CPUs, to this fault analyzer, and then share the data with you and work on improving quality, I'm happy. But different vendors may have different requirements, and if you want to, let's say that you're a GPU provider, you might just say, I'm going to put a shim in OpenBMC that calls over MCTP via some standard that I create to go grab my GPU device error logs. And that's fine too. We don't really care. At the end of the day, we just want the BMC to have the error logs and have the interfaces for out-of-band management.
Right. So the assumption is that whatever it is that the silicon vendor decides to implement, the BMC will abstract that. And so, looking at this diagram here, the management core firmware is something that would run on any of the left side boxes that are supposed to be abstracted to the BMC, right?
Exactly.
So what I'm struggling is how this term core management now firmware is not showing up everywhere, but it doesn't. I don't see where its place is in this picture.
It's really on this out-of-band hardware somewhere.
Yeah, so I think Carlos's point is nothing about this picture mandates management core firmware or a management
It's
core
optional. It's just up to the vendor. Yeah.
And Carlos, I think your point is the text later on doesn't imply that it's optional, right?
Right.
Oh,
it says BMC and the core management, right?
Yeah.
So I think, for clarity, what I would say is stay the BMC firmware as the only piece here, and then had, period or something later that says, it is also acceptable to have, actually, I would, challenge that and say, if the CSP doesn't really care, and that's the vision we're trying to drive here, then why even mention it?
Sure. The only thing I would say is that I think so there are enough use cases here, especially for things like GPUs and smart NICs, where I do think there's value in creating abstraction layers that make it easy for vendors to do it. I don't think it's necessarily part of this proposal, but it's something that we may want to spin off as like the next step, So we architect this because this is the most important. And then if there's something that we want to do between the vendor code and the out-of-band hardware that isn't CPUs or maybe even CPUs, that can be a kind of a follow-on discussion that is optional.
Okay, I don't really want to rat hole, but if you put it that way on that text, then I think it'll make it more clear that the core management firmware is something that is not
Well,
mandatory.
I think why don't we just okay, the green boxes represent out-of-band error logging interface running in BMC firmware, plus an analysis tool to run in the management infrastructure. And I think that's fine. That is what we're mandating with these
Okay.
requirements. And you're right, the management core is totally optional, and that's a vendor-specific implementation detail. And there's value to it. And I think that we as a group should discuss it and think about how do we make it as easy as possible to add this abstraction layer to as many BMCs as possible. And the way you do that is by putting less in the BMC. But that's a follow-on discussion. It's certainly not a part of this immediate proposal.
Okay, so that we'll queue it up for 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to queue it up and have another discussion. But so if you're okay with what I did here, I'll just close those comments. I mean, I can undo what I just did. I just was closing.
Yeah. That addresses my comment. Yep.
Okay, good. That was really good feedback. Thank you. Here, Carlos, you did a great job really diving into this, and I'm really glad we had that discussion. Okay. Yes, I agree. I saw this and I didn't have time to resolve it. I would say that we want decoding as part of the analysis, and I can clean that up.
Yeah, it's just consistency, right? I think someone that is not familiar with this will read this and try to find it somewhere, and then nowhere else, and they will not connect the dots. So let's just be consistent with the naming.
Yeah, I agree, and so I'll take the action item to clean this up. You can see I talk to myself. And I think
you don't respond to yourself, you're fine, right?
So, and this is another one, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good feedback. Okay, I added this case. And really, what I'm saying is, we all give you, as a silicon vendor, data. You use that data to improve your understanding of how things fail, and you improve the tools as a result of better understanding. And that's really, I think, an essential part of this, is that I think, at least in my opinion, you all don't have enough data from parts in the field. That's my experience. So is that content?
What you mean to say here is that this will allow the cloud providers to share that data with the silicon vendors, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the way that you have worded here, you're implying the other way around, enabling silicon vendors to share expertise.
Share data.
Oh, I see. No, I see what you're saying now. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And it's a run-on sentence.
Yeah, just work on the wording, but I agree with your overall intent of the goal.
Okay. The more people watch you type, the more you fumble. At least that's the way it works with me. Okay. I'll just say 2. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to waste your time. I will hurry. So is that okay?
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yep.
Okay, and if someone wants to wordsmith it, feel free. Okay. That's a good, so Scott is, I thought I saw him here. Yeah, there you are, Scott. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that makes sense. What do you all think? Should I just type, we are,
I'm like, however, this work group will investigate.
I mean,
yeah,
I guess I personally wouldn't like that to be in the document for the same reason, Drew, right? Like, if that is in the document 10 years later, someone's like, what does that mean?
we're
Um,
still working.
yeah, right. I don't know. I mean, I think we should do what Scott is saying, right? I think we are doing what Scott is saying, but I think we should just figure it out and then state it, right?
We can
I
we
mean,
can achieve that through executive summary. In that, we can talk about that overlap that Scott wants to discuss. I think that's a good place for it too.
In the
So,
executive summary.
do you think that would be okay, Vilas, if you talk about that? Hey, this is what this work is about, and how it relates to other initiative at the time. If it goes in a
sure.
time capsule or something, then it's of course going to be a problem. But
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I don't know. I'm used to writing specifications which don't have that type of kind of language, but I mean that's fine. Like I'm okay with that. Right.
The only
Okay.
reason only reason I brought it up was because I was thinking about trying to get it approved.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a fair
I
point.
mean, and so
No,
going back
yeah,
to Yogesh, maybe it should go in the executive summary. I didn't think about it there
yeah.
going into that.
Yeah,
Is that
And if that's important, yeah, and if that's important for getting it approved, then yeah, let's do it in the exec summary, right? That seems like a good idea.
and that's really
well,
where I'll be honest. I've been a little shy on feedback because I'm actually thinking more about let's get this thing let's get this thing out. So if it if I was I'm reading it from the perspective of someone trying to that we be in our approval path, and um
and that's actually fair because we need folks who would give feedback on second version of this too, right?
well
So,
yeah, and I mean so I understand actually flooding it full of comments is gonna like be disruptive. Not saying that
but,
I'd hold
well,
back if there's a big problem, but in general, I think we're making progress, and it's sort of like I'm thinking about it from a perspective of someone approving it, saying like, how does this fit, and how does OCP get um, how does it fan out into OCP, if you will?
yeah, that's a great point, Scott. One thing I'd say about the comments, if you have a rich thread of comments you can point to, that is evidence that there's been engagement and feedback, and the feedback has been, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. We just got to get the comments resolved, you
That's
know?
true. Yeah, we just have deadlines, so
Exactly. We need to push ourselves. Yeah.
Deadline. Come on, Scott.
hey,
Okay.
Yogesh stuck one right in there, right? So,
Hey,
it also might have been the anonymous otter that gave us the deadline. Not sure.
no, that
so,
deadline was that deadline is it actually helped us push this through, and I think we're really getting close now. It's only a matter of a
Yeah,
couple of
yeah.
weeks.
I think we're getting better and better. I agree. Okay, let's keep resolving comments. I think that we have addressed this comment that, it really is firmware first because it's an ACPI term. It's kind of, it's beyond it's ACPI, it's beyond any CPU product. What I did is I put a glossary definition for firmware first and I linked to it. So I'm just going to accept this if that's okay. Hey,
Yep.
Carlos, are you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. See, we're cleaning it up. Okay. And then I'm just going to accept this. I just left this to say, look, I added hyperlinks since this, this is the first table. Okay. So then, in this table, I'm saying, bare metal is not feasible. We can't do OS first. Like, there are a ton of comments and stuff in these sets of tables. Do we want to slug through them now, or, like, do we want to give people action items to deal with it offline? Whatever you all want. And I think, Mark, you were looking at this. Your review would be real valuable.
Yeah, I was supposed to be looking at it. It's been a rough week for me, so I haven't gotten much done.
Okay, fair point.
But
I'm there too.
yeah, but I promise I will.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Drew,
Well,
I think one just high level comment on the table, right? We should again be crisp on language, right? I think, it seems like we have three states, right? Feasible and recommended, or sorry, four states. Feasible and recommended, feasible but not recommended, and not feasible. No, that's three. Sorry, I can't count. Three states. We should not say like not desired or not encouraged. We should just say not recommended. And then B, the color coding should match those three states, right? Like we shouldn't have red boxes that say feasible and not desired, but also not feasible. And red boxes say not feasible, right? So just, you know, we don't have to do it now, but I think we should just agree on, X number of states. It seems like there's three, and then just color code accordingly, right?
okay. Let's see. I see. Uh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I follow what you're saying. Okay. I will, that's my fault. I wasn't consistent. If you can help me spot the colors though, I'll go look.
You want to assign that to someone? You can assign it to me. I can work on that. That all three tables, I think. Three, right?
Okay. Yeah, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. We need to start sharing a little bit here.
Thank you. That's awesome. I appreciate the help. Okay, I'm gonna just scroll past the tables then. Go to this comment. Okay. So Scott, did you have a chance to review this?
Yeah, I'm sort of looking at it. If you want, I can work on it offline. Like if since we got 15 minutes left, we can go through some of the comments here and approve them, and then leftovers I can take it offline and do it.
Okay.
And I can do that this weekend, so we can have it on Monday.
Sounds
And
good.
if you want to meet ahead of next Friday, which is our deadline, then I can meet sometime with you this week.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ping me and I'm. You have my cell phone, right?
I should. Yeah.
From
Should.
OCP. Yeah. So just ping
Yeah.
me. You can text me and I'll look. Okay. I would be happy to talk. So and I cleaned something up. Oh, okay. I cleaned this up. So the sentence was wrong. In other words, and so I said the light blue boxes or components are being influenced, and then uh, yeah, I think that's accurate. It's all stuff that we're changing. Um, does this? Yeah, I guess could you just could folks look at this paragraph and I can get rid of this comment if you agree.
Yeah. Was this my comment? Because
It was your comment.
yeah, okay. So this is now accurate. So whatever, I don't remember what it was that was inaccurate, but it's clearly gone. So
Okay.
um,
Okay. Cool. I mean, just any little cleanup we can do to get rid of comments will help, right? So I called this proposed fault management framework for the caption. Is that okay with y'all? Okay. Uh, let's see. As an error directly. Yeah. So Carlos, I guess just to summarize for everyone else, Carlos's comment is, hey, what's this out-of-band hardware? Out-of-band hardware is pretty broad in general, but as far as I know, the BMC, there may be proposed interfaces, and Yogesh, I don't know if I can mention the one interface I'm aware of that might do this.
Actually, scroll down to the figure that I just added to the end, towards the end, section 7, I think. And maybe that was the example that we fixed and worked on in the global summit. Maybe that's what we need to bring here. So out-of-band hardware goes to OS kernel, not to host. And the ASL code that actually populates host. Does it sound better? We can put this back, or I can take the whole diagram.
Yeah, that's fine with me, but I guess what I would say, but this isn't quite right either, because ASL runs in the kernel context. So I would stretch, the ASL.
That's why I kept it right in between. Yeah, I can stretch I can put it touching the kernel box or something. Yeah, sure.
We need to paste that source in here too, but I like that. That makes sense, I guess. But my point was that, the other problem you have is there's no industry-wide interface that exists on current platforms that I'm aware of, where the BMC could write a chunk of memory and then tickle ACPI to go copy that to the host. There's just no shared memory interface that is industry common. And vendors are certainly welcome to invent that, but I was just lumping that under, well, that's some future new out-of-band hardware. But I don't care. We can be explicit if you want and just say there will be some magic that lets the BMC do this. It's a solvable problem, right? There is a way to do it. We just don't have it yet. Or do we? I mean, does anyone want to talk about their solution?
So Drew, I think.
Sorry, for the BMC to write the HEST, Drew, is that your?
Yeah. Yeah. How does the BMC? That's really the essence of Carlos's comment.
No, my comment is, if you scroll down to figure 4, I think we just had a consistency problem in those two figures.
Oh, well, okay.
And it's a figure below. I meant figure 4. Sorry. So if you look at figure 4,
well, this is an more abstract drawing, right? So it leaves some detail out.
Right. So if you were really meaning that the hardware box, the direct arrow that goes to the OS, is that one that you're showing on your figure 3, then I think that addresses my my item. But if you look at this, hardware talks to the BMC, and then the only arrow that talks about writing the HEST is through the BMC, and we just need to be consistent, right? So right here you have out-of-band hardware going straight to the HEST, right?
Well, what it is BMC to out-of-band hardware to HEST. And then here we say BMC to HEST, but we say may need hardware assist to write the HEST.
So Drew, make the BMC and hardware line, make it bidirectional. The one that's going from hardware to BMC, make that bidirectional. I understand the dotted line implies that it gets there somehow, not directly, right?
Yeah. It's magic. Okay, I need to copy the source drawing back in too. So I don't know how.
Take a comment for now. Yeah. Will that help, Carlos? We make your point is right. If there is no way out from there, how is it going to host hardware assistance? So yeah, sure, there is a bidirectional path there.
So the arrow that will be bidirectional is between BMC and hardware?
It's between,
yeah.
well, it's
BMC,
between,
BMC and hardware, because the hardware assistance, BMC gets the data and well, I mean, we're just using one arrow. We're not using like multiple arrows for things like interrupts and all. It's all just one pipe, which has everything, error data, interrupts, whatever you may have, right? So when you say hardware, actually, where is, I'm assuming BIOS is running on the hardware, right? And you can invoke things like ASL code and whatnot there. So yeah, it's a little simplification here.
well,
Maybe a
no,
little too.
the problem is no SMM. We don't want to need SMM to do that. And so again, I think what would happen is there'd be some shared memory interface where the BIOS could plunk something in a hardware buffer somehow, somewhere, that was visible to ACPI, and then ACPI copies that into the host. So I'll align this drawing with the drawing below, no problem. But it's not the BIOS doing it; it's the ACPI code running in the OS context.
Yeah. I was thinking like where to put that.
Well, we just copy. I think your other drawing is fine, but the only thing I say with this drawing is that there is some hardware assist needed, but we can abstract that away. Just talk to it.
Okay.
So when I copy this drawing over, I'll just try to mention,
And this should be the source. I just edited it, so this is the source here. So we can work on it offline.
It's not this. It's not opening for me.
That's odd because something is funky because I can open it on my end. See, I'm selecting it and wait a second. I was just editing it and you are right. Now I am not able to open it either. I do not know what is happening.
I don't know. Okay, well, that's, yeah, I don't know. We can, if you can send me a link to the document with the source, I will fight it.
Oh no, I think I know what is happening because I can open it in another instance. So I was working simultaneously on two windows, and in one of the instances I can actually edit and open it. So maybe that's probably what is going on. When multiple users are working on the same, it only lets one user open the diagram. I mean, even I can open one of the windows, but not in second. So I think it's just it's not a problem. Yeah, we can figure it out. Put it offline.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. Let's see. So how do we? So part of this is that. I'm so sorry. Okay, here we go. Okay,
I think in Figure 4 you can just add a note, being a little more explicit about what the hardware assist is and how it connects to Figure 3, and then you just call it that way. Because I think that's what you meant is on Figure 4 you wanted to show the path that you can follow if you start from in the Figure 3. If you start from the BMC, go through the out-of-band hardware, and then that goes to the HEST, right? It gets a little confusing because you have out-of-band hardware specifically called out in Figure 3, and then Figure 4 is just hardware, where you have more than the out-of-band piece of it that could help, right? But I think I get your point. So it might be just a matter of adding the right text to connect the two figures together.
Be consistent, right?
Yeah.
It'd help if it was consistent. I agree. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so we have a plan for that. let's
Hey, Drew.
see.
I just
Yeah.
want to, I guess I want to ask a question about the figure, right? Now that you've clarified that the light blue boxes are where we're trying to influence. The arrows, some of them are standardized interfaces that we're trying to specify or standardize on, and some of them are not. Do you want to also call that distinction out? Right, so as an example, you mentioned the interface between the vendor code on the OpenBMC and the out-of-band hardware is not part, something we're trying to standardize on per se. But
In this particular frame, in this
yeah,
particular
in this,
yes.
yeah, but the interface between the vendor code and dbus is, right? Like that pipe is. And I'm suggesting, I think it would be good. We don't have to do it now. I'm just suggesting, I
Yeah.
think that would be a useful, um,
Yeah, I can take an action item to do that.
Thanks.
The what I would say too is that, and I think like we're promising to make a standard for it with the requirements document, and then we'll have to go and actually do the grunt work because we're not trying to define all possible RAS actions. If AMD has a brilliant idea for something that's going to solve everyone's problems, and you have IP, by all means, make your own RAS action that no one else has, right? And so, but we want to have a standardized way of expressing that on dbus and up through Redfish.
Yeah. I think it would help with the pictorially show what we're trying to achieve, right?
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Okay, I'll work on that. Okay. We're almost out of time. This is supposed to hyperlink to a glossary. I will do that. Needs caption. So I'll work on the captions or some, yeah. I'm just going to see if this. We're getting out. We only got like 2 more minutes. Oh, so this is a good one. Mario said I meant to reply to him. Can we just use poison creation and poison consumption? That's fine with me. So if that's okay with people, I'll just, I already made some changes based on Mario's comment. I mean Antonio's comment.
That's great.
So. And then he also, we're talking about silent data corruption and preventing silent data corruption and containment and stuff, and that's not really relevant. So I agree. I care about it passionately and hate to see it not here, but he's right. So if there are no objections, I'm going to accept this and just delete the we mention IO because DMA and corrupt data causes silent data corruption. So I'm going to delete that. And then I'll just, this. Okay. Okay, we are out of time. If you look, we swatted down tons of comments, and I think the majority of the comments we need to really clean up are in this section. And so, Yogesh, you and Mark Fletcher cranking through that table is going to be, get rid of a lot of these comments, hopefully.
Okay.
All
And
right.
then next time maybe we can one thing we want to I think work on it, and we already agreed making figures consistent, including the last one that I just added, and maybe Drew the example. I want someone to take a second look at it because like you say, just to steal your phrase, nose blind
Yeah.
after looking at it now.
So, yeah, and actually, Vilas, do you mind taking a look at it?
I know. I can take a look No, I don't mind taking a look at it. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I don't say I'm additionally assigning. How about that? Okay. Okay, that's awesome. So, okay, I think we're out of time. It's time for Vilas to go and have his
Take your time. Take your
medicine drink.
time. Dry martini time.
That's right. Yep.
Enjoy Vilas. Cheers.
And I'm ready for mine too, but I've got a few more fires to put out. So
Have a good luck. Yep.
thanks.
All
Okay.
right.
Well, hey,
Have
we're
a good
getting there.
weekend.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for the awesome feedback. I feel like we're really getting there. We're close.
Yeah, this is really coming together.
Cool.
So it's cool. So.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Hey, Drew, I sent you a text yesterday. Can you just check
I'm
that?
so sorry. I've been on fire.
Unrelated to this. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I'll respond. Sorry about that.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'll
Yep.
look at it
No
right
worries.
away.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
See ya.
Bye.